As always, I'm very happy to hear people from all around the world. We have people from Kenya, Saudi Arabia, the United States, Maryland State, North Carolina, India, Egypt, Turkey, Ghana, Canada, Oklahoma, Poland, Australia, but currently Malaysia. Okay. Professor Anita Singh will be talking today about the challenges of global staffing. And so she is from Ramaya Institute of Management in India. And so, Professor, the microphone is yours. We are eager to hear your lecture.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor, for such a kind introduction. And thank you for also giving me an opportunity to, talk to our students who have all registered for this wonderful global program, cross-cultural, working in teams. So there's so much learning. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, and I'm very happy, glad to be here. So let's launch straight into the discussions that we are going to have today. I would call it more of a discussion. I'll make a small presentation, and then I would be very happy if students could be part of
Even better.
Talking about the various staffing. So the agenda for today is I need because there are students from different backgrounds, probably undergraduate, graduate, and which semesters they are in. Of course, they may have done IB or must be pursuing IB. So this is more related to the international human resource management, global staffing. So I'll give a little introduction to international human resource management. And in that context, we will be talking about a little bit about the expatriates, multinational corporations, expatriates, the staffing approaches and the business strategies, because, the staffing approaches depends a lot on all these factors. So I'll be discussing that. Then we move on straight to discussing the best practices of global staffing. And I'll be discussing three cases which I have prepared: Honda, Geberit, and Air India. And, the last agenda is challenges of global staffing. I start with, the introduction to human resource management. And the example that I have here is Zoho. Zoho Corporation is an Indian multinational. It is headquartered in Chennai in India. And it is, a global technology company which specializes in SaaS solutions. It's a big multinational with, in 150 countries. It has its operations, while it has its businesses, it has its location in 13 countries, right from North America to Europe, Southeast Asia, UAE, South Africa, many, many countries. And so coming to the staffing, while it does deploy its staff from India, which is the home country, to other locations, it also, what is interesting about Zoho Corporation, it also focuses on hiring locally. And this is because it has this strategy to adapt to regional market needs while at the same time having a global footprint, and it calls it a transnational localism. So we go on to explain this 3D diagram, which was proposed by this model was given by Morgan. And I'll take Zoho again as an example to explain this. So Morgan's model helps us explain the, the complexities of international human resource management, which is across three dimensions. While the human resource activities is there in a domestic firm, what is interesting about multinationals is you have different types of employees and different countries. So if we take Zoho as an example, Zoho may deploy some of its employees from India, which is the parent country nationals, to other regions, for example, to UAE. So that makes them parent country nationals. So before that, let me talk about this dimension. So Zoho's home country is India. Host countries, it has its offices in 13 countries across the world, while it may also source, other resources from other countries. So these are the home, host, and other countries. So coming to back to Zoho, It may deploy its key Indian managers in strategic positions in different locations, and they are the parent country nationals. At the same time, Zoho hires locally. So, say, for example, the German location or the European location may have a German citizen uh, staffed with a German citizen, so that would be host country nationals. At the same time, it has a vast presence in Southeast Asia. So, say Vietnamese employee is transferred to the APEC headquarters, which is in Singapore. So that will make it a transnational, third country national. So it shows how complex, international human resource management is. That is human resource management when it is for multinational corporations, international large corporations. So this is the other figure which shows how staff mobility could take place right from the headquarter to the subsidiaries, from one to the other, which I explained with the help of this Zoho example. As I said, to understand staffing, global staffing, we also need to look at a little bit of staffing approaches, and we will also move on to discuss a little bit of business strategies of multinationals. So the different strategic orientation staffing approaches of multinationals could be ethnocentric, where it largely focuses on staffing key positions with parent country nationals, with, of course, the focus is, strategic control, knowledge transfer, and development of its own managers when they are posted in different subsidiaries. While polycentric approach, here the focus is more on localization, and hence they staff their local offices with locals, which is the host country nationals, with the objective of, localizing, saving, the cost savings, and also to gain local legitimacy in those, host countries.
Yeah.
Similarly, the regiocentric
I will stress for the
Yes.
students, so the terminology ethnocentric, polycentric, regiocentric, geocentric, this is standard international business terminology. So these words, it's not just this lecture. So everyone who operates in international business, that's the terminology we use. So if you want to be an international business professional, you need to sort of memorize and understand these terms.
Thank you for that, Professor. Yes, it's these are the 4 strategies that IB students, IHRM students must keep in mind. The geocentric is where the organization, the multinational, focuses on diversity, developing global leadership, developing global managers, and a common identity across the corporation. And there they prefer staffing its key positions with parent country nationals. I will go on to say PCNs, HCNs, and TCNs, parent country nationals, host country nationals, and third country nationals. As I mentioned, we cannot discuss and go ahead with discussing global strategy without global staffing, without discussing business strategy. So the 2 dimensions of business strategy are local responsiveness, is responding to the local market, and global integration is integrating its global operations of a multinational, integrating and coordinating the subsidiaries of the multinational. So the 2 ends of the spectrum, 2 ends of this continuum are the global strategy and the multi-domestic strategy. While the global strategy is about standardizing products worldwide, a classic example would be Apple. Apple laptops, Apple phones are standardized no matter where you buy, it's the same product. So there is high centralization, and the subsidiaries are dependent on the headquarter. While in multi-domestic is just opposite. It's 2 ends of the continuum. The multi-domestic is each of these subsidiaries are relatively autonomous, and there is decentralization. Why? Because it wants to cater to the local needs, the local market, the tastes and the preferences of it, The example would be multi-domestic, would be say for example, Hindustan Lever. Hindustan Lever is a subsidiary of Unilever, the British company, and Hindustan Lever is the Indian subsidiary of Unilever. Yeah, so the products, the FMCG products that it makes is really caters to what we need in India. The international strategy is where you develop the products are made in at the head office at the parent company, and the subsidiaries are largely the sales channels to the sell the products, and this is true for mostly high end products, for example Rolex, which is made in Switzerland. Yeah, so the subsidiaries would be the sales outlet for selling these high end products. Transnational strategy is high on responsiveness, meeting the needs of the local market, while at the same time all its subsidiaries are highly interconnected and they are interdependent, and that lowers the cost of also production. So the example could be, for example, McDonald's would be an example of transnational strategy. Yeah, if we superimpose the staffing approaches and the business strategies, this is how it will look like. So ethnocentric is largely for global strategy, polycentric is largely for multi-domestic strategy, and geocentric would be largely for transnational strategies, and somewhere in between you would have a regiocentric. Yeah, so there are no clear cut in the sense, regiocentric is somewhere in center. So we will see, we will have a few cases. Through the cases we will try to understand this. So let's start with the first case, which is Honda. Diversifying the executive board, it's not yet about staffing because this is an appointed position, but I'll take this context to discuss about staffing a little later. So let me start with this. Way back, I have taken an old example first, way back in 2014, because it's not so, today. The big Japanese companies were under a lot of pressure, to diversify its board. It would improve the governance, the risk management, and of course, give it a global perspective. And one of the pioneers in that, the Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's policy was to revive the economy and boost. He felt that this is going to boost the growth and innovation, and he wanted to bring women in leadership positions. They said all listed companies should have at least one woman on the board. And this is true across many different countries now. Even in India, since 2013, 14, we have the same thing. So we are talking about 2014. And Japan, Honda was the third biggest, I think, after Toyota and Nissan, was the third biggest car maker. And way back then, it had an all Japanese, all male board members. And operating officers. There was not a single woman, not a single foreigner on the board. So it was the first time in 2014 that they appointed first female on board, Hideko Kuni, who is a technology expert. She's a professor at a university in Japan. And the other foreigner for the first time who was appointed on the board was Isao Mizoguchi, Brazilian, who was the senior vice president and director of Honda South America, who had been, who had 30 years of experience in Honda, was the first foreigner to be appointed as an operating officer. Now I take Isao Mizoguchi as an example of staffing approach. So this was the context in which I discussed Isao Mizoguchi in the next slide. Okay, so Isao Mizoguchi is a Brazilian of Japanese ancestry. So he was the senior vice president and director of Honda South America, had been with Honda for 30 years. Now I take this as a context. Some of us may be curious about Brazilian Japanese ancestry. Yeah, how did Japanese immigrants move to Brazil? So I discussed the next few points is a little bit of history, talking about when we talk about global staffing, there's a lot of history, geography. We talked about approaches, stuff, strategy. So let's look at the history, how we have Brazilians of Japanese ancestry, which makes this global staffing, this particular case, even more interesting. So the Japanese immigration started, way back in 1908, and it continued till early, I think 1962, 1963. It continued. The pre-war period was a tough time in Japan, early, 1908, around that time, where the push factor was overpopulation. There was not enough jobs, tough climatic conditions, especially in the northern region of Japan, declining agricultural prices. So these pushed some of the, large number of Japanese immigrants to Brazil. And the pull factor in Brazil was the expanding coffee plantation economy. So this is how it happened, and that's what makes it's very interesting. While we all know Japan lost the war, and there were tough conditions again after the war. So many Japanese continue to immigrate to Brazil. So by 2000, this is slightly old data. By 2000, there were 1.2 million Japanese Brazilians in Brazil, and this was one of the largest community of Japanese descendants outside Japan. So, but the second generation of Japanese did integrate into the Brazilian society. So here we have Isao Mizoguchi, a Brazilian of Japanese ancestry. So let's do
If
a
I
little
may
bit
add
of
here, if I may add here,
yes,
one of the
yes, sure,
Exculture's administrator, Rafael Tamashiro. So she
yes,
is from Brazil, currently studying in Japan, but yes, I guess that's his family history as well. So
great, yeah, okay. So let's have start this poll. Let's see how much some of the understanding that is happening on which staffing approach do you think was adopted by Honda for filling the senior vice president and director of South American operations? Yeah.
For all those voting, you would be able to
Yes.
see the entire poll on your screen. We've launched it, so let us know if you're not able to. So you can just put your answers in the chat box as well.
and
Okay. So there are
it
two
looks like the
questions here.
students have not been paying attention because the answers are all around the place. It should be one like 90% if you choose the correct answer, and then maybe if you misguided. And yet, okay.
I on purpose left it multiple choice, that probably there could be two choices. So let's see how it goes. So it's the first question.
Yeah, I wish I could participate. It would not allow the panelists. Yukta, do you know the answers?
Oh yes, this time I know all the answers, but I'm not
Okay.
gonna share.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll assume that you know the answer. You just don't want to share.
No, we actually did a dry run yesterday, so that
You
Yes.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I see some of the students have already moved to the second question. So what do you think could be the reasons for selecting Mizoguchi as a senior vice president and director of South American operations? I see quite a few of you already answering these questions. Yes, okay. I give another few seconds okay. Let's move to the first question. So we have 31% saying it is ethnocentric. Ethnocentric is where the parent country nationals are deployed in key positions. So Honda is a Japanese firm, and Mizoguchi is not from Japan, so that doesn't work here. Centric is host country nationals are in key positions. So we have 18% saying polycentric. Brazilian, South American operation, yes. So polycentric could be a good answer. And this is even better answer. So this is the answer could be either polycentric or regiocentric. A better answer is a regiocentric because we are talking about South American region. So here is a Brazilian who is, Brazil is one of the countries in South America. Somebody from South American region is holding the key position. So I think 29%, so that's good. 29% saying polycentric. 28% saying regiocentric. 17% saying regiocentric. And 6% saying regiocentric. So 29% saying polycentric. 28% saying regiocentric. 17% saying regiocentric. And 6% saying regiocentric. So 29% saying polycentric. 28% saying regiocentric. 17% saying regiocentric. And 6% saying regiocentric. 17% saying regiocentric. And 6% saying regiocentric. And 28% saying regiocentric. And 6% saying regiocentric. And 17% saying regiocentric. And 28% saying regiocentric. And 6% saying regiocentric. And 17% saying regiocentric. And 6% saying regiocentric. And 28% saying regiocentric. And 6% saying regiocentric. And 17% saying regiocentric. And 6% saying regiocentric. And 28% saying regiocentric. And 6% saying regiocentric. And 6% saying regiocentric. And 28% saying regiocentric. And 6% saying regiocentric. And 6% saying regiocen So it could be, I just still left it open because students are trying to understand. So a better answer is a regiocentric. Otherwise, we could still accept polycentric. Yeah.
I think maybe
Geocentric is,
I
yeah,
think
sure.
maybe some students were confused because the name sounds Japanese. But again, that's the
Yes.
second generation. They are Brazilian citizens. It's like, I don't know, saying that Trump is a German. So, well, he is of German
Yes.
descent, but I mean, well, his family has been in the United States for several generations now. So, same thing here.
Yes.
Just because the name sounds Japanese, it's not ethnocentric staffing. It's a Brazilian citizen leading in a Japanese company. So even though he does have a Japanese connection several generations back.
Okay, so what could be some of the reasons? We have 55% saying all of them, which is right. Yeah. Is Brazilian, and has a strong understanding of South American, culture and market, is of Japanese heritage and upbringing of, in the Japanese culture, and has vast experience in the automobile industry, the company, and in the region. So all of them. So I'm glad that at least 55% did think that. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next. So here is an explanation of what we just did. Yeah, it's an example of regiocentric. I said is a Brazilian understanding of the market, Japanese heritage, and extensive experience in Honda. So that makes him largely a regiocentric approach. Okay, let's move on to discuss the next case, which is Geberit. Geberit is a Swiss company and it specializes in sanitary products. It was established way back in 1874. It was a one-man operation, and it took, the founder 30 years to actually pioneer a wooden cistern which is lined with lead. Right now, Geberit, which is a Swiss company, operates 26 production facilities across, 4 different countries. So in 4 different countries, it employs around 11,000 people across 50 countries, and the reported net sales was 3.1 billion in 2023 Swiss francs. So it has grown, as we see, it has grown from a modest family enterprise to a global leader in sanitary solutions. In fact, 2024, it's celebrating its, 150th anniversary. I've taken the Geberit Swiss example to actually extend it to Geberit India. And Geberit India is staffed with Abu Bakr Koya. He's a managing director since 2012. Geberit India was founded in 2010. But before that, like many other multinationals, when they first tried to go across borders, even Geberit, operated through a local agent. It was exporting its products to India. But then in 2010, it decided that let's establish a Geberit India. And it was in 2012 that Abu Bakr Koya was appointed as a managing director. So in 2013, soon after Geberit India was established, the first manufacturing plant, in fact, it's the only manufacturing plant which was opened in Pune, which is in India. And that's when the first product, which is designed and made for India, was developed, and it is an alpha concealed system. Now, let's go on to discuss staffing in Geberit India. What do we think made Geberit appoint Koya? Probably there was already talent available in India. Yeah, he was already the India head of a German facade company, and in his previous roles, he was in various sales and management roles across different industries. So there was talent available locally, which is in India for Geberit India. While we had local talent, let's also try to understand how the Indian market is. It's a very complex and fragmented market. As I actually interviewed Mr. Koya, and in the interview he said that even in India, the market is fragmented. The way Jaipur would be in Rajasthan here, and Kolkata would be in West Bengal here. So while Jaipur prefers premium, Kolkata prefers the lower end products. And so the demand, the pricing, the segmentation, the premiumness is completely different even within the same country. So
Is this
a
because
country
of
is not,
is this because of the difference in economic development, or is it cultural, or what are the reasons for those differences?
it could be both. It is also cultural. Um, it's different parts. It's a subcontinent. India is a
Yeah.
subcontinent. And, for example, the northeastern part of India, what people like, their needs, their tastes and preferences would be very different from, Jammu and Kashmir to the southern part of India, the eastern. Uh, it's a subcontinent, and that
Interesting.
reflects in how fragmented the market is.
Okay.
Yeah. So as we are trying to understand the Indian market, this is what Koya had spent nearly 3 decades in the industry. So he understood the market very well, and he did understand that some products are simply not suited for all markets, and so one size just does not fit. One size does not fit in all the different local markets. So another understanding that probably Koya brought in was, while the local manufacturing was taking place in Pune, there had to be an efficient local distribution network. And this understanding, since he had already been with this German facade company, he was widely networked, not just regarding the distribution, but also knowing key people across, buyers, suppliers, had a good understanding of the market and the uniqueness and the market dynamics. So probably this vast personal network that he had developed played a vital role, and it is essential social capital for business development. So probably that could be one of the reasons for staffing Geberit India. Here is the next poll questions. Could we launch that, please? Could we launch the poll questions, please?
Yukta, do you have access to it, or?
Yes,
I don't have it today.
yeah, please have a look.
So,
Yes. So here there are 4 questions. We go by, through them one by one. Abu Bakr Koya, an Indian, is the MD of Geberit, a subsidiary of Geberit, Switzerland. What do you think is the type of employee? Is he a parent country national? Is he host country national? Or is he a third country national? Parent country is where the multinational has its
so this
headquarters.
time there is, well, still the answers are almost equally distributed.
Parent country is where the multinational has its headquarters. Host country is where it has its subsidiary. So Geberit India is a subsidiary of Geberit Switzerland. Geberit is a Swiss company which has its headquarters in Switzerland, while Geberit India, whose managing director is Abu Bakr Koya, is from India.
Yukta, let's make sure that these questions also appear in the lecture quiz for the students. So those who attended the live session obviously will know the answers and hopefully they'll remember them. But it seems like these are very good questions, right?
Indeed.
Okay.
Yes, Professor, we're
I
just
see
letting you
that-
know. So we do create a quiz after each lecture. And so the
Yes,
students not
yes.
only attend live lectures, but they also need to show us
Right.
that they pay attention by
Yes.
completing the quizzes. And only those who pass all of the quizzes will get the
Right.
certificates.
Right. Yes. So which approach is Geberit using to staff its subsidiary, which is Geberit India? Which approach is it? Is it an ethnocentric? Ethnocentric, where they staff with parent country nationals. So Geberit is a Swiss company it would staff Geberit India with polycentric is where the host country nationals staff key positions. Geberit India is in India and it is staffed with Abu Bakr Koya. Regiocentric would be from the region, and geocentric could be any of those, whoever fits in best for the position. Let's move on to the third question. There are already students answering the third question. Which business strategy is Geberit India pursuing? Is it an international strategy, which is largely pursued by multinationals, making high-end products? I gave an example of Rolex or probably even Lamborghini. Global strategy where it is a standardized product. I'm giving you the clues, students. It is a standardized product, the same standard product which is sold globally. Transnational, classic example would be global and local, while multi-domestic is a product that is made for the local market. A product that is made for the local market. Here we are talking about local market is India. Okay, let's move on to end the poll, get the results. Yeah.
Should we share the result? Oh, okay. So you're sharing the results. Okay.
Yes. So 51% had the right answer, which is host country nationals. Abu Bakr Koya is from India and Geberit India is staffed with the host country national. Yeah. Though it is a Swiss company, we don't have the MD is not from Switzerland, but from India. So it is HCN would be the right answer. So all those who have given HCN, congratulations, that's the right answer. The approach, if HCN is the right answer, which would be the staffing approach, it would be polycentric. Yeah, it would be polycentric approach. So both these questions are interrelated. If you have understanding of that, this should be clear. And we have 31% saying polycentric. Probably you need to, kind of digest some of these concepts, understand, over a lecture probably. So this is something for you to think about and reflect on it later after this lecture. The business strategy that Geberit India is pursuing, I would say somewhere close to, its localization. So probably it would be a multi-domestic strategy. It is localization. They're making a product for India. Yeah. Alpha system, concealed system is a product for India. So you have 33 students who answered for localization as a strategy. So let's stop. Okay, let's move on to the next case. Yeah, in a little while. As we see, Geberit India was established in 2010, and this is 2024. So over 14 years, it has had the India-specific market experience. And we see, in case of Geberit India, right from the beginning, I think right in the beginning, probably 1 or 2 years or 1.5 years, very briefly, there was a Swiss German who was heading Geberit India. So a Swiss German would be a PCN. But then we see soon after that, the Geberit India, for its host country, India, is using an HCN, which is the case over here of Abu Bakr Koya. Similarly, in Honda, a South American region, you see it is an HCN or somebody from South America who is heading the South American operations. So you see, over a period of time, as a multinational gains experience in the local market, in the host country, you have, and if the strategy is localization, if that's the focus, it uses more and more of HCNs and fewer parent country nationals, which is employees from the head office, from the headquarter, deployed in other locations. The third case that I have here is a more recent one, which is staffing of Air India. Very recently, May 2022, Tata Group announced the appointment of Campbell Wilson as the CEO and Managing Director of Air India. You see this old advertisement of Air India, which was, I think, a long time ago. I don't know when this was made, but this is black and white, via Cairo and Geneva. I leave Bombay every Tuesday. So this was, I thought was quite interesting, and I should present it here. So we will talk about Tata Group, since the Tata Group has taken over Air India. Air India was with the government earlier. It was a government company. So let's look at the history of Tata Group first, and then we move on to discussing Air India and Campbell Wilson's appointment as the managing director of Air India. So the Tata Group is a conglomerate which was established long time back by Jamshedji Tata in 1868. It is a conglomerate which spans, the businesses span right from steel to salt, as they say, and many more other businesses. And it comprises 30 companies over 10 verticals. The more recent one is Tata Electronics. In fact, Tata Electronics is also going to make parts for Apple. This is one of the more recent ones, joint venture with Pegatron in India. Collectively, it employs 800,000 people. It operates in 100 countries across 6 continents, and the revenue generated is very large. It's $103 billion in 2021.
I didn't realize how big Tata was. Okay.
Yes, it's one of the oldest companies in India, and it is, in fact, while corporate social responsibility is now mandated since 2013, Tata's was one which was already doing a lot of corporate social responsibility. There is a city called Jamshedpur in the eastern part of India. The whole township, the whole city it's a Tata. It's called the Tata Steel City. So it's a very interesting organization which was already doing a lot of corporate social responsibility even before it was mandated by the government.
And
so now let's.
What is the origin of the name? Why is it Tata?
It's a Parsi community that had come to. Sorry. Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they are believed to have come to India from Iran, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
200, 300 years back, way back. Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So Air India was founded by Jahangir Ratanji. I'm just expanding this name, J.R.D. Tata. Jahangir Ratanji Dadabhai Tata in 1932. And so since then, I think soon after independence, in the 1950s, the government took over Air India. And since then, it has spread its wings across, major network across North America, Southeast Asia, the Gulf, Europe, Australia. So it has a wide domestic network, or it had a wide, I'll say why had, because the government, now from the government, it has moved to Tata's back again. So Tata started it after independence in 1947. It was taken over by the government, and again, Tata has bought it in 2022. So, yeah, so it has a wide domestic network as well as international network. In 2007, it decided to merge the international carrier and the domestic carrier, which is Air India and the Indian Airlines, because both of them were making losses, huge losses. And in 2005, the Air India Express was launched, which was India's first international budget carrier. Yeah. So now there are many more international budget carriers, but this was one of, so that's why it makes the case more, it stands out as an example. However, Tata already had a joint venture with Singapore Airlines, and the joint venture is called Vistara. It's since 2015. Air India in 2014 became a member of Star Alliance, and we know that it is one of the largest global airlines consortium. Finally, by 2021, the debt of Air India, and now it was merged, Air India and Indian Airlines, swelled so much that it became unmanageable, and the government decided to sell it, and Tata Group bought it back again. So this is how the story of Tata goes. And here is an old photograph, which I thought looks quite interesting. So here is an American rock group, the Doors, which landed in Heathrow Airport in Air India flight, and this is way back in 1968. I thought it was an interesting picture to share. So let's now look at Campbell Wilson's appointment. Before Campbell Wilson, 2022, when the Tatas took over Air India from the government, the first choice was the Turkish Airlines chairman, İlker Aycu. But the Turkish and the Indian government had some trouble. There were some political issues, and that led to Aycu declining to take up this responsibility. So here was Tata's back again, looking for somebody to take over the reins of Air India as the CEO and the managing director. And after a little bit of search, again, it appointed Campbell Wilson as the chief executive officer and the managing director. However, again, the appointment, this was in May, the appointment was subject to requisite regulatory approvals by the Indian government. Yeah, so every time there is an expatriate who takes up a key position, the government has to approve it, especially if it is at such a senior level. So the government approved it, and this is how Campbell Wilson was appointed as the chief executive and managing director. A little bit about Campbell Wilson. He's from New Zealand, and he has worked in key global markets in major functions, and he brings in, so why his appointment? He brings in 20 years of expertise in the aviation industry in both the full service and the low-cost airlines. He started his career way back in 1996 in Singapore Airlines as a management trainee in New Zealand, but then he stayed with the group and he was posted in Canada, Hong Kong, Japan. He came back to Singapore in 2011 as the founding CEO of Scoot, and Scoot was the first low-cost subsidiary of Singapore Airlines, and he led it till 2016. He served as the senior vice president and sales and marketing of SIA, Singapore Airlines. He worked in 12 roles across 6 countries in 3 different continents. So he has a vast experience. Now, why India? During his tenure with Singapore Airlines, he did, make frequent visits to India in different roles. And so he had a good understanding of the Indian culture, the ethos, the beliefs and the customs. Besides that, his wife of Sri Lankan origin, with her, he also feels at home, quite at ease with the Asian culture and the values. Establishing Scoot later took over Tiger Asia. So the Singapore Airlines has gone through a lot of, expansion, also tough times. So establishing Scoot and leading SIA gave him enough experience, which the Tatas thought was needed to address the challenges that Air India was facing, is making huge losses. So now Air India is depending a lot on its top management team, including the CEO and MD, Campbell Wilson, to revive the fortunes of Maharaja. As you can see, this cute picture over here. So this iconic, mascot was first designed even before our independence, which was way back in 1946. So here we have the next set of questions, and I would again ask the same question. Could I have So we have 3 questions here for the Tata case. Wilson the CEO of Air India, identify the type of employee. Is it a PCN? PCN is an employee from the headquarter. HCN is an employee from the host country. Third country national could be from any other country. The third country national could be an employee from any other country. The headquarter of Air India is in India. It's an Indian company and its headquarter is in India. And Campbell Wilson is from New Zealand, who worked with Singapore Airlines for a very long time, 26 years. And he has been appointed by the Tatas to lead the reins of Air India, which is an Indian company. What do you think are the challenges in global staffing decisions? Is it cultural adjustment, accomplishing the task, which is reviving Air India, which was making huge losses when it was a government company by the Indian government? Or
Clearly,
is it
this
the
is
institutional environment? Sorry. Yes.
yeah,
go ahead.
clearly this is a more challenging topic for the students. It's more
Yes.
technical, and I see the answers are distributed in a way that suggests that most of the students are still not sure what the correct answer is.
Yeah.
Well, you
But they have a
students
food
listen
for
up.
thought after this lecture to think about these cases and see how it fits in their understanding. Or is it the institutional environment, the laws and regulations of approving the appointment by the government? Is it the political environment that even if you appoint somebody, uh, it could run into trouble, political tensions between countries? Or is it the availability of resources, human resources? What could be some of the risks that are involved? What is the staffing approach adopted by Tata? Is it an ethnocentric staffing? Tata is an Indian company and headquartered in India. Is it ethnocentric or is it polycentric? Is it regiocentric? It is staffing key positions with anybody from the region. The region is Asia, Southeast Asia, Asia Pacific region, or is it a geocentric? The choices could be multiple choice. Could be anybody who fits in. Geocentric is the color of the passport does not matter. Your nationality no longer matter. What matters is what you bring to the table. Your competencies, your experience is what matters. And what are some of the challenges in global staffing decisions? Is it adjusting to the culture? Is it accomplishing the task? Yeah, I think I'm just repeating the same question. Okay, let's go to the first one. Campbell Wilson is with Air India, an Indian company, and he is from New Zealand. So what does it make? 47% says third country national. Yes. Congratulations for all those students who responded third country national. He is from New Zealand, who is holding a key position of an Indian multinational, which is Air India. So that's the right answer. Challenges, all of them. So all those I didn't have, yeah. So all of them, task accomplishment, institutional environment, we saw that in the political environment, we saw in the previous case with the former chairman of the Turkish Airlines had to deny the CEO's role because there were some political tensions between the two countries, Turkey and India. So they had to again search for another person to hold this key position. Yeah. Okay. The staffing approach is largely geocentric, but regiocentric could be also the right answer, because regiocentric, if you take Asia Pacific as a region, or you could just take it geocentric, which is whoever fits in best. Earlier, they had thought of a Turkish expatriate for this position because the person turned it down because of certain issues. It is somebody from New Zealand. So geocentric and regiocentric would be the right answer. Thank you. Thank you, students. So that was
Good job.
37%. Yes. Okay. So these were the three cases. As you can see, the key factors that are affecting global staffing. This is just putting everything together. All that we have been discussing. We talked about the government restrictions, situational factors, the stage of internationalization also. We said Deberit has first stage was exporting, and then now Geberit India is a wholly owned subsidiary. So the stage of internationalization definitely impacts global staffing. The number of, and if it is a localization strategy, so the number of host country nationals that would hold key positions would go up as opposed to parent country nationals. Also, socio-cultural considerations we saw in the case of Campbell. He was already familiar with Asia and India, since he would make frequent trips to India, and his wife is of Sri Lankan origin. The multinational business strategy in case of Geberit India, we saw it was largely localization for India. They were making a product, and hence HCN fitted in best. Yeah. Specific market experience, we already discussed that. Yeah. And their plans for individual management development and organization development. In case of Campbell Wilson, again, organization development, it needs to revive Air India from a loss-making country to generating profits. So here I've put in all the factors, and there could be a few more factors, personal factors also. How good are you with networking? Also personality characteristics. So there would be other factors. This is not a very comprehensive. I've just put a few of them. Now, I read this interesting article while I was preparing for this talk. I said, let me look at a few articles around, and I found this interesting article in Harvard Business Review, HBR. And this article is written by Claudio Fernandez Arauz. He's a professor and also a consultant, with several companies across the world globally. And he is talking about competency versus potential. And in this very beautifully explained article, he says it's no longer in this given, VUCA environment, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environment. The question is no longer about individuals having the right skills and competencies and experiences. All the three examples that I showed over here for Honda, for Geberit, and for Air India, we looked at each of them had the right skills, competencies, and experiences to be, to take over these key positions. Now, he brings in something else. He says, what is important in today's world is having the potential to learn new skills and to survive in an ambiguous environment. And he uses this example of Pedro Algota. Some of us may be aware that he survived. He was out of the 60 people who were on this airlines which crashed over Andes Mountains. He was one of the 16 who survived the crash. And how he survived has been, written in this book. Into the Mountains, movies have been made, films. I think there's one American movie which is Alive, and more recent, a documentary um, which is Stranded. So a lot of talk has been around Pedro Algota. So he says that Pedro Algota, who was, who started with, besides other companies, he also worked with a company called Quilmes, and he rose up to become, climbed up to become the CEO. And he says it was not the brawn, brains, experience, and the competencies. What is important is potential, which is the ability to adapt and grow into increasingly complex environments. So he thinks that it is more the potential that matters. If you have the potential, you are going to, and probably we have to wait and see if this is how, Wilson Campbell and others who have been holding these key positions will be able to take the organizations that are leading to new heights. So potential is the key in today's VUCA world. So I thought this was an interesting article, and I'm going to end this talk with that. I don't know if we have the time to play this video.
No, we probably need to stop because
Yes.
another meeting
Yeah,
starts
it's
in 2 minutes.
27.
And
Yeah, that's
Google
why I kept the
will join
video
us
towards.
any second now, reminding
Yes.
us that we must
Yes.
finish
Yeah.
before they start. Mhm.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
And
Professor.
I'm open to questions. In fact, I would be very happy to.
Well, if I may address, so one question came up a lot during the lecture that is not related to the lecture, and that is about the quiz for the previous lecture. So Yukta, I'm not sure, it looks like it's some sort of a systemic error, so let's maybe take a look again. And so maybe we used their own panel or something else. So we need to resend to those who have not taken the quiz. But yes, any questions for the professor here while we still have 1 minute left?
We had one or two questions which but there was one about amidst all of this, how was Apple able to become or have a standardized approach towards this?
Yeah, because it is pursuing a global strategy. So it is the same product, no matter whether you buy in the USA or you buy in India or you buy it in Japan, it's the same product. So how is it able to standardize its products? And it's because it has different companies. It is contract manufacturing also. The assembly is being done somewhere else. So all these various partners, the contractual companies that are making products for Apple, they are all globally integrated. So this is how Apple is able to standardize its products. The design is, of course, done by Apple, yeah. So it may have assembling done by, Pegatron and Wistron. These are some of the transnationals from Taiwanese companies which are doing the assembling of probably the Apple phones. But then the design is, so a lot of decisions are centralized while its operations are highly integrated.
Thank you, Professor. So, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, students. So we had about 250 people today in any given time, quite a large crowd. So thank you so much for your time and for such a lecture at a late hour on a weekend. So we know you probably had better things to do, but thank you for donating your time and expertise to
No, it was a pleasure. And I really enjoyed talking to the students, doing this talk. And thank you for the opportunity once again. Thank you, X Culture. It's amazing organization which is doing such great work. So I'm very happy to be doing that.
Thank you. Thank you.